Alright, we got another project here we got to deal with. So I got a 83, late 83, early 83. I think it's a late 83 FXRT shovelhead bike. It's the one we did the motor a while back on. So we're having a problem with recurring transmission main shaft seal leakage, which is the inner primary problem. So these early FXRs, which is this one, it was an enclosed chain on these things, so it was always an oil bath. So Harley never put a seal or anything here to keep oil from going from the primary into your chain housing. So this is a problem. The other problem is these bearings are always loose over here. The material they made these aluminum out of is not very strong, and they get loose and just spin in here. And no matter how many times we Loctite this thing in there, it still breaks free and starts puking its guts out. And with the Tribodine in there, you can see the blue still in there. It peeks out and goes everywhere. So this is the problem we're trying to figure out. So we already turned this thing in a lot bigger through here to put a 24-2 sprocket in it, which really helped on the gearing. But the problem is the bearing keeps coming loose and then it leaks, and there's no seal in there. All you run is a sealed bearing, and that's it. This is a 4-speed bike here, and you can see how they have a lot taller surface here because there's room for a seal. See how this one's real thin? There's no room for a seal. Now, somewhere in 84, late 84, they changed the primary and the bearing to the later design bearing. I still don't know if they put a seal on it or not. By 86 or so, I think they did have a seal on it, but I'm not sure. Harley was making changes every few months back in the 84, 5, 6 time frame. In 87, they did a lot more changes. So every year they were changing stuff, and a lot of times it's 2 or 3 times. I know 85 there's 3 different variations, 84 is 2 different variations, and evidently 83 was a couple variations. So anyway, it's just, these things are always a mix. So we have a Barnett Scorpion clutch in this thing, stock basket. So this is the gap we're working with right in here. So looks like there's a lip on there. So there's not a lot of room in here. It looks a little bit more than one finger. So what's a little bit more than one finger look like? That is roughly, precision measurements here, about 1/8 of an inch, about 7/8 of an inch. That's about what's in there. Okay, so that's basically all we got to work with. Now this is not pushed on all the way, so it's on a taper. It's going to go in even further. So roughly you're working about 3/4 of an inch, which isn't really enough to do much of anything. I already know that for sure. Okay, so I went upstairs, went through all of my stuff to see what we got. And we got lots of options here on what to do. Okay. So that's late option, real late option. And these are real bearings. Not sure what bearing that is. That's a seal to make it work. And this is the BDL bearing, which is a late primary bearing, early shaft kind of deal. So basically on a 4-speed bike here, you got a 2-inch diameter seal, or a hole here for the bearing, and then you got a 1-inch hole. Okay, this is metric, so it's 25 millimeters, so it's 974 I think I measured. It should be 984, but 986, something like that. Okay, 982, good. So that's better. So that's 25 millimeter there, and then it's metric out here. So it's over to 2-inch and 40 something thousand, so it's probably something like 50 millimeters, some stupid number, 52, 48, who knows. 32 metric conversion, 52 mil. So it takes a 52 millimeter bearing, which is what this is. So it's a 6205 bearing. This is what BDL used when they went to a belt drive. They eliminated all the stock stuff, which was this thing here with a roller bearing and a sleeve. That's what this thing is. There's a genuine Harley sleeve in the package. Rusted all to hell. Nice, huh? Basically junk. This is one here that was open that was not rusty all the hell. Okay, so that one there looks like it's lightly used. So this sleeve goes inside of here. This presses on the shaft. Obviously there's not room for that in there. See, it's more than 7/8 of an inch. See, ain't room for it. This is probably about 1 inch wide, it looks like to me. Yep, 1 inch. So this does not work, at least in its present condition. You have to shorten it up. Then you can use the bearing. So how thick is the bearing with a seal? That's our question. I need 2 hands for this, so I'll get the old tripod out. Everybody's favorite camera position, I guess. Depending on who you listen to, anyway. Okay. So if we take our seal and our bearing and put them together, 875 right on a nut. So that means if that's in there, there's absolutely no room for clearance. Assuming the clutch hub's all the way on, which I don't think it was. So there's not really room to do that. At least stock. Doesn't mean we can't modify. Okay, the next thing is we have the BDO bearing, which should be the same as these bearings here, I'm guessing. Not sure what these bearings are. They're still sealed in a package. It's their BDL bearing here. Oh, look at that same thing. Okay. So these might be late model wheel bearings. I'm guessing they probably are because they got seals in them. Don't know. Or they might be a BDL bearing that they use for conversion, which I wouldn't put it beyond that. I have some of that old BDL still floating around in here. So that's what this bearing here is basically. This bearing is just under 600 thou. The problem with this is this has seals in it, but these are not made to keep oil from going through the bearing. It's made to keep the grease inside the bearing. So it's a grease seal, not an oil seal. So it will slow down the leak, but it's not really made to seal oil. That's the problem with these bearings. Now if you go to an all balls bearing right here, 25 mil, that's the same bearing as this one right here. It's a single roll ball bearing. If you go to the earlier 07, 08 Harley bearing, oh no, this is 25 mil. So this is like 08, 09, something 09 and later. This is a double roll ball. See, it's thicker. See, that's about a 1/4 inch thicker. This has 2 balls in it. This is probably going to be a 7/8. 830. So that might just fit in there. That'll give you a lot more reliability than a single ball will, having 2 balls. But not sure how much more that's really going to be worth. So we might be able to put this one on there direct. The problem is same deal, these are not made for oil, these are made for grease. So that's going to be close, it might just fit. Here's some all balls, which are China bearings, not a big fan. This is a roller bearing. Harley's roller bearing. They are a lot stronger than any ball bearing because they got a lot more bearing surface contact area. You know, you take a little ball, it only hits on the race like that. You got a roller in there, it's that wide, it's got a lot more contact. So it'll take the load a lot more than stupid ball bearing will. Everybody says ball bearing is the way to go, but they're stupid. The problem with this is this requires an inner sleeve right here. Boom. Now that could be put in there, so it's not like we can't do it. You just have to trim it down and make it work. Now this one over here is a sleeve that has a stop on it, so it can't slide in and lock up on the high gear inside the transmission over here. But this is even wider. Now we're 1 3/16 length. So that's considerably wider than this one, which is too wide already. So this is pretty much have to really be trimmed down. Now if we got a little bit of taper over here available on that shaft to be used, right in here you can see there's some taper in there. Blow it up a little bit. See, there's a little bit of taper there, but I got to put a nut on this to pull it in. Of course, he gave me no hardware to tighten anything up with, so that's always real nice. And the customers don't send me all the stuff they need. They didn't send me a bearing either. So, anyway, if I could put this in there and cut it way on down, then this would be your best option, because this will not allow this to go into high gear. These Harley races, they like to move around and they move inward. And they go into the high gear, get into the seal, and screw it all up and make it leak. So this is an option possibly, we don't know yet. These require a seal, which is this big seal right here. So that'd be a seal. So that means you have to have a bearing and a seal to make that work, if you do it correctly. That's if you're using this setup right here. Now we already know that that's right at the width of what that is, so basically ain't no room for that. Now if we take that nut right, that high gear right there, and you can see how it sticks out probably 150 thou at least above that nut. That means I can cut that gear off and I'll have a lot more room to do stuff. But then I got to take the tranny apart and do that. So that's a lot more work, but that'll give you room for bearing and everything you need. And like I said, this is pretty loose. It's not even on there yet, so that might be what we have to do no matter what. So if we do that, we might have the option of doing it correctly with a good bearing on it, a good seal, and a sleeve on the inside to take the wear off the shaft. So if we can put it out and put the lip on it, which is that one, would be the best. But right now we don't know that. Put that over there. So that's that combination of parts. Now this seal here is the BDL seal, or Indian, the old Gilroy Indians, the Harley Indian, not the jet bike Indian. These are the ones that have the seal that goes in the outside the bearing and then seals on that small shaft. This has a 25mm hole in it. So that is what this seal is. So it's a 25, 52, and 7mm width. So this is an oddball seal, but it's available. So that allows you to run that bearing or this bearing over here without a seal. But if you're going to do that, you should put the race on and you can run a regular seal. I mean, do it that way. But there's different ways of doing things. Whoops, wrong parts. This part's go there, this part's here. So this, I don't think we're going to have really room to do it, so I don't know. I'd like to run a real seal in here so we got room. Now if you take your big double row ball, take your single row ball and put the seal together, excuse me, then you see it's the same width. Damn, throat. So these are the same width. So you can run a single row ball in a seal, or you can run a double row ball without a seal. So, more options. Lots and lots of options here. But the first problem is do we have any room to do anything? And without cutting that high gear off, I think we're going to be very, very limited. The next problem is we got to fix this primary over here. So these things are loose. So if we take our brand new bearing, it's not a very tight fit, as you can see. And no matter how much glue we put in there, we have different grades of Loctite we've been using, it makes no difference. They all come out. So you can see the green Loctite that's in there still, residue. That last Loctite didn't live 100 miles, it was done. The other Loctite we used, it held up for a month or so. But that was riding miles. So anyway, I need to sleeve this. So when I sleeve this, I can go in here and make a big flanged style seal and put in here, or race. I might be able to pick up some more room by moving the bearing in this direction. But that's limited by the amount of space we got right here, because obviously the clutch goes around this and the thickness of that. So basically this here, not this part, this part. So I don't know how much room we got. This is still the maximum room we got, so this room right here. It's all we got to work with. And either that center part or these screws right here are going to hit. And you can see how it's got markage right here. Excuse me. That's a gasket leak there. Harley didn't leave much room for a sealing gasket surface, did they? So this looks to me like these, there's something going real close through here. And I don't know if that's the chain. That looks like the chain diameter is as far as the chain. So I don't know why we got marks for a chain going across. It's not really digging into it, but you can tell it's getting friendly. It's right there. It's not enough to cut into the aluminum, but it's touching the casting mark. That's called right on the edge. So everything's really tight in here, as you can see. So I don't think there's a lot of room to play around going inward, but until I mock all this up, I don't know. That's why I told him, send me everything. So right now we got no space. So the initial task is to put this in there. And then you take your seal, lay on top of that, and see if there's room. If you can bolt it together without having a gap in here, you know, it pulls up against the surface here, then we know there's room. Not much room, but room. And I can make a flange sleeve that sticks up, you know, up here straight up, or I can just make a straight sleeve that sticks up. And I don't think there's room for a flange on the other side, but it'd be nice to have a flange so it stays put. You know, obviously, the flange, it can't come up, it can go down, but not up. And most of these things, they want to go inwards, because the way things flex, all this stuff flexes, it makes things go inward, not outward. So it's going to want to come out this direction like this, not go down. So this surface here is what we got to work with. Excuse me. Now if I was to cut a big sleeve, big flange in here, and if I got room to clear all the studs and stuff on that side here, all this stuff, then I can make a flange here and make this a lot thinner. I can gain probably 30, 40 thou at least right there. That's probably an 1/8 inch thick. You can gain half that. You can grab a, you can gain probably 80 thou if you had to. Right there. That's a significant amount of material to gain. It's a lot of work, but it's a gain. The easiest thing to do is just make a sleeve and keeps this original stop. Now you can probably cut that a little bit thinner here, but it is cast aluminum, so only so strong. So at some point it could break. So you gotta be careful. Alright, so these are all things I gotta figure out, and right now he did not send me no mounting hardware, so I don't have the nut to go in there and tighten that with. I don't know what these people think I'm supposed to do without any parts, but I guess I'm supposed to invent things. So right now we need to figure this out. So I'm gonna go see if I can find me a nut to use, and we'll be back.